Hi everybody, I'm Phil Fatika. Welcome back to the Millcreek Government Channel. So nice to see you. Two very handsome, two very intelligent gentlemen joining us today, and I know you know both of them. Let's start on your left. Ed Lesser, the head of COG. We'll tell you what COG is in the middle. In the middle, Brian McGrath, Millcreek Township Supervisor. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Phil.
My pleasure. We're going to be discussing, of course, today, COG, Council of Governments. Toss-up question, Ed? I don't care. Brian, what is COG? You got an hour and a half.
Okay, it's the Erie Area Council of Governments.
Yes.
It's a group of municipalities that was formed in the early to mid-90s and has been very active ever since. Started primarily as a way of sharing information, expanded into a way of purchasing goods and services for the various municipalities, and now we've branched off into several different directions. Hopefully we can touch on some of those today.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned that because it is something that benefits everybody, no matter where you're watching us. The COG plays a part in how well things go for you. And Ed, I'll let you definitely talk about that. It's been the primary purpose of the joint purchasing. So what are we purchasing that is so joint and so good for everybody?
Well, currently we're purchasing gasoline and diesel fuel. Wow. That's our biggest product that we and the COG doesn't do the purchasing itself. We just facilitate the bid process.
Right.
And this past year we had 20 participants in our joint purchasing bid solicitation. They included 6 school districts, 1 authority, a big one this time, EMTA,
Erie Metropolitan Transit
Authority joined us, and 13 governments.
So there's benefits and big numbers. You can get a better deal. I know
We think
Brian and I have had many discussions about the fact of salt. Is that enter into it? Especially this extremely mild, no snow, just 65-degree temperatures.
Just a nice, easy winter.
Yeah,
like we're used to. Yeah,
crushing everybody.
Yeah, we used to buy actually one of the primary materials that the COG used to purchase jointly was salt. That was one of the things that kind of kept the COG going in the early stages. Yeah. More recently, the state has initiated a program called CoStars, and that is a joint purchasing program throughout the entire state where they purchase anything from salt to police cars to snowplows, anything you could imagine. The state facilitates the bidding process. So the municipalities locally and all through Pennsylvania have been utilizing this CoStars program. So that's kind of taken the COG out of that picture. We don't do as much joint purchasing as we used to. We still do, as Ed said, the gasoline and diesel fuel, things that are more regionalized, like a service, a milling, a road milling process, things for the more generalized programs for the municipalities. As an example, we're going to be going out for signposts, and going out for bid for signposts, catch basins, pipe, things like that, where the municipalities would benefit from getting together to do that type of purchasing.
Yeah. Let's roll it back a little bit. Ed, I know that you've been here since the inception here, about 8 years ago, if memory serves me correctly. So we're not unique. Other communities have COGs. But tell us about us. Tell us about this one that benefits us. The grants you received, you know, the birth of this. It was a difficult birth, I think.
I came on a little after the birth of the COG, but I became the first employee of the COG.
Okay.
The only.
The only.
Well, no, we actually had 3 months where we had an intern.
That's right, yes.
Who happens now
Happy days.
Be a colleague of yours, and that was Jay Brenneman.
Oh, that's right, that was Jay Brenneman.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes,
Jay,
yes.
He learned a lot about government in the 3 months.
Under you, yes, he did.
That he was with us.
Yes.
I was employed on August 1st of 1995 and have been working with the COG since.
Yeah.
And and if all goes well, I'll be retiring on July 31st, exactly 20 years.
We were going to hold that off to the end.
Okay,
And your
that's
20-year
fine.
anniversary would make you 27, I think.
Yes,
Or
that's
28,
right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, next birthday.
Yeah, and by the way, we have to give a tip of the hat here to the Gaming Authority, because they have given you money to initiate this process. So if you wonder where the gaming money is going, here it is. It's doing good things for a lot of people.
We really appreciate the funding that we got from the Gaming Authority. We just received our second grant from them, $88,000. And 2 years ago, we received close to $152,000. But it wasn't to keep the cog going. It was to fund a specific program, Phil.
eGov?
It was eGov, electronic government. And we had been building that over the course of a number of years. We got funding from the state, a shared municipal service program grant, from the Black Family Foundation, from the Erie Community Foundation, and there was a broadband grant that came through the Northwest Commission. And we benefited from that, did a lot of surveying of local governments. And so we had put that in place, and when we went to the Erie County Gaming Revenue Authority, ECRA, they were very receptive to our request and provided a good deal of funding. We reached out to every municipality in Erie County.
And by the way, there's 37, right?
38,
38,
I believe.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fluctuated
Yes,
over time.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And there's something I want you to toot your horn about. You just recently received an award from the governor. Either one of you, tell us about that, because they don't pass these out as pennies. You know, these are what's the award? The name of the award was?
It was the Governor's Award for Intergovernmental Cooperation. And the subcategory of it was electronic government.
Nice.
And we received that in April of 2013 or no, 14.
14.
Pardon me. And several of us went to Harrisburg, or actually to Hershey, to receive that award.
Nice.
No, it was Harrisburg.
Okay.
It was at the Capitol. One of the things I would like to mention about that is that this project, this eGov project, has been a wonderful example of a private-public partnership, because we've had two companies that without their assistance, we would not have been able to further this project.
They recognize the importance of what it is that you do.
Yes.
And by this was an award for excellence, by the way. So this was,
And they were with us.
Can you name those companies?
Yes. It was Velocity Network, Inc., Joel Duderman,
Yes.
president, and Schaefer Technologies, Inc., John Schaefer, president. And they've contributed numerous hours to our thinking out this whole project, and in the case of Velocity Network, tens of thousands of dollars of services.
Let's stay on the E thing for a moment before the other questions I have here. Brian will be here. You're going to be retiring. How much more E will it get? How much more eGov do you think it'll become? I mean, here we are still dealing and holding up papers. I have lots of papers in my job. You have lots of papers in your job. You have lots of papers in your job. I remember when they said, "Oh, we'll become paperless." That hasn't happened yet.
Well, we are working in that direction.
Okay.
As a prime example, and one that we always try to use as an example, is the Erie County Taxing, Taxing Committee.
Yes.
Okay.
When the state came out and said that we want one earned income tax collector for each
Okay.
county,
Right.
the municipalities and school districts were required to get together to pick that tax collector. In our case, in Erie County, we utilized eGov to facilitate that. And in doing so, we're able to document that we saved about $1,500 a month by going paperless.
Great.
All the information was exchanged via the internet, and every municipality, all 38 that we talked about, all the school districts, all exchanged their information that way. made the choice, and it's worked out very well.
Yeah,
It's amazing, Phil, when we talked about when Ed was discussing high-speed internet as one of the goals of the eGov committee or eGov initiative. The number of municipalities in Erie County that don't have the ability to access high-speed internet.
Right.
And it is a real detriment to those governments.
Oh, absolutely.
That's something that we're pursuing.
And they're screaming for it.
Oh, yes,
They
absolutely.
want it, hey. Something to be solved in the near future, I hope. Besides joint purchasing, you deal in concepts that are very near and dear to people, and that is stormwater management, because that's huge on your radar. Tell us about that.
Well, as part of a discussion that took place several years ago, one item that came out of that was the eGov. Another was, what can we do regarding stormwater management? The county was coming out with their own stormwater plan that was going to have to be incorporated in each individual municipality, adopted by those municipalities. That was going to create a need for individual municipalities to come up with their own plans, and how can we work together? So the COG got together and said, well, let's see if we can discuss how best to address the county's needs and the individual municipalities' needs. Maybe we can look regionally. Maybe there's some way that Millcreek addresses stormwater that maybe could help out Venango Township. Maybe there's something that Summit Township has in their township that would facilitate or that would help the stormwater needs in Millcreek Township. They're uphill from us. Maybe there's some way that you can put a regional facility in that would service multiple municipalities. Maybe that would then help those developments in that area. Instead of having, as you drive through the area, whether it's Millcreek or any other township, you see these big detention basins being constructed. Maybe if a supersized one were located in an area, that could serve not only multiple developments, but multiple municipalities. That would be a tremendous cost savings, not only for the development itself, but for the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, and it is a problem, I think, with us here. Right now we're taping this, and it's very cold, and there's a lot of snow that is not melted slowly. It is accumulating. The parking lot outside of QLN, it's like you can't put the snow anyplace anymore. You're losing parking spots, and all of that is someday going to melt.
We hope slowly.
Slowly,
yes.
Yeah, and that's a huge issue, what you're just talking about there.
We've talked about it within our own municipality already, that what's going to happen if we get that heavy rain and a quick melt. It's going to create a lot of problems. Like you said, there's a lot of snow out there. There's a lot of big piles of snow out there, and it's that type of an issue that creates problems for municipalities.
Ed, let's pick your brain here as you're heading off toward, I don't think you're going to actually retire, you're just going to take a step back. Changes you've seen, and from what you used to do, and by the way, you are
I came to Erie to become the controller of Dahlkempers, and later became the chief financial officer. I'm predating that. I was a CPA for a number of years, and then got into several retailing businesses as controller in Pittsburgh, and then felt that I needed a change of pace, and I found intergovernmental cooperation. And I've been very happy that I did that.
Well, we're happy you're there. What do you see? What's changed since you started as that chief financial officer, moving into a governmental situation? Biggest changes you've seen, or biggest changes you'd like to see?
Well, one of the things that is a subtle kind of change, and that is that every governmental organization needs to be able to adapt to changing personalities, because we go through elections on a regular basis. And the people that we started with 20 years ago, except for Brian and maybe one or two other people, have all gone by the board. And so it becomes a re-education process all along the way, and reprioritization, because people come in with different ideas about what it is they think should be addressed. And so the COG, like any other governmental entity, has to be flexible and adaptive to the current personalities and current priorities. We are faced with looking at a strategic plan for the COG to reset our priorities. About 7 or 8 years ago, we undertook a functional cooperation project, and out of that, the eGov project came, the Stormwater Management. We looked at public works to see what we could do. And also what came out of that, although it wasn't part of the priority, was cable negotiation, something near and dear to your heart.
Well, that leads me to the next question, and you're watching us simply on cable. You're not watching us over the air because it just is not going to exist. And that has played into everybody's viewing habits, and that's where the township comes in, and there's going to be a seismic change coming, we think, because Comcast has made this $46 billion bid to buy Time Warner, and Time Warner will simply go away, and a chunk of it will be cut off and be called Charter, and that only tells us we don't really know what's going to happen, right? I think that's fair to say. No, but all of that being said, how does that enter into the Millcreek's finances and Millcreek's perception of what's going on? Because there's money involved here.
Oh, yes.
Lots of it.
Years ago, when we've gone through several different cable providers in Millcreek Township, and the supervisors at that time wanted to start a government channel. Money was set aside to provide for funding for that. In Millcreek Township's case, we went into entered into an agreement with our school district, and they were kind enough to do our taping for us for our government channel and run our programs and record our meetings and put those on the air. That worked out very well for many, many years. More recently, the Millcreek School District decided to get out of the TV business, eliminating that program from their curriculum, and so that ended our agreement with the school district. So we had to find some other place to put our programming. We went to WQLN, and they were kind enough to enter in an agreement to do that programming. That left us with what are we going to do with the new, as you said, Comcast or Charter. When it comes to negotiating a contract with them, we wanted the same type of deal, something similar at least, to provide funding for our government programming. And although we don't have anything signed just yet, we are getting very close. And again, this was a COG program, a COG initiative. Let's work together to see if all these municipalities that are in the same boat as Millcreek Township and the city of Erie, having the need for an agreement with at that time Time Warner, how can we work on something together? And fortunately, it took a while, but we were able to reach an agreement.
So we're wondering really where that's going to go from here, and I don't think that chapter has been written yet. There's a lot of resistance in some quarters to having Comcast own Time Warner, which would then make it just a mega giant and just too much power, perhaps. Because I like what you say there, because you have people's ability to look at the transparency of government and see it happening and say, okay, I can hold you accountable because this is recorded. And that's wonderful that you do that. Because not every community does that. Not every community does this. So thanks to your forward thinking and Brian's forward thinking, you have this available, and that should be. What's going to happen with the cable? I don't know. Ed, look in your crystal ball. You're going to have some time when you're retired. Would you tell me what's going to happen? I know there's a lot of money going to be exchanged.
I think the most important thing is that the Council of Governments, along with all of our local governments, have to be flexible to change with the times. You can't do something today because you did it 20 years ago.
Right.
You have to take and look down the road, and that's why we've put so much effort, Phil, into the eGov project, because there's a recognition that is going to play a greater and greater role in how governments function, how citizens get their information.
Sure.
And so we've gone kicking and screaming from the piles of paper into electronics. And we may not be where we want to be right now, but we have an idea of what the future is going to require. And so we're trying to be adaptive and to move toward a greater utilization of electronics in our governmental communication.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You've touched on a lot of great ideas, the joint purchasing, the stormwater management, but beyond that, what else does the COG do that most people aren't aware of this? I mean, the stormwater management, I think that doesn't get the big headlines. It doesn't get the big 6 o'clock news lead story. The joint purchasing is, well, shouldn't you be doing that? That's what, that's why we elected you people. You should be doing this. But beyond that, what do you see, or what is happening that doesn't get the large print?
The one issue that, and as Ed said, it's like a new training session every time there's an election. You have to kind of initiate the newly elected officials into why the COG exists and why it's valuable to the municipalities. They haven't been around, the newly elected officials weren't around when we were talking about things like regional assets. We had long discussions about regional assets for years, right, among the COG members, and then a hotel motel tax. How are we going to have dedicated funding for these regional assets? What was initially thought of by the COG was eventually adopted.
Right.
We did the groundwork, the COG did the groundwork, went through literally years of discussions about how best to fund these regional assets. That's actually been adopted by the Gaming Authority. Like I said, we did the groundwork, they adopted it, and it was a very valuable experience. Many of like I said, the newly elected officials aren't aware that the COG initiated that. There's other things that the municipalities talked about years ago that are still very pertinent, but things that, like the joint purchasing, have become maybe less important.
Yes.
Still very important, but not as important as things like Ed touched on with the e-government and some other hot button issues.
One of the studies that is rolled out, and I think you've heard of this, commonly called Destination Erie. It covers a wide variety of topics, and I know you'll be playing into that, and I know you have a great deal of thought about that. So let's take a few moments here. Tell me about your idea of Destination Erie. Is it just going to be, and they're hoping it's not, a bunch of studies that are going to sit on the shelf and collect dust? Doggone it. Let's put this into action.
The true test, that you hit the principal word that comes out of that. The process has been very open and very inclusive.
Very transparent.
And the COG participated in that process.
Good.
Along with all of our governments. But the main thing that happens in Erie is we do a lot of studies, and then we don't have the means put in place to apply the practical application of the results of those studies. It appears that our county executive recognizes this and appears to be putting people in place, or at least a person in place to lead this at the county. And if Destination Erie is going to be any kind of success, that becomes very, very important. I was at a Jefferson Educational Society presentation last night, and Dave Brennan from Erie City Council was there, and he was talking about historical preservation. And we have a group here in Erie that's concerned about that.
Yep.
And it appears that they had some real input into Destination Erie, as many other organizations have, and that becomes very important, that this is a very balanced process. We've put a lot of time and effort into it in this community, and the follow-up will be the main test of its success.
I heard this succinctly put at, and I can't take credit for this, it comes from Melissa Lyon from the Health Department. She had a great term for this. It's called, I hate to go to these meetings where you show up, throw up. And everybody went, What does that mean? Well, you come to the meeting, you pick up all the brochures, and when you get out of the meeting, you throw them away. And they don't mean anything. You got all this data, but you didn't do anything with it. Do something with it. And I think that's what I hear you saying, Ed. Do something with this. We know this. Now, how are we going to put this into action? Okay? Let's stop the talking and let's get to the action. Did I hear you correctly?
Absolutely. And I'm hopeful that that's going to take place in this case. One of the organizations that's had input into Destination Erie is one that we've been doing some collaboration with, and that's Erie Together.
Yes.
That's a most important project that's under the auspices of United Way. Bill Jackson and Mary Beulah there have put a great deal of effort into that, and we're bringing them in front of the COG so the government gets integrated into that process as well.
And we're all in this together. It doesn't. We're all part of this mix. I see it that way. We have a couple of minutes left. Ed, we're going to wish you a very happy retirement and your years of service to the public and the private industries that you served in. Are you going to learn how to fly, jump out of a plane, go scuba diving, or play golf with Brian and me?
None of the above.
Okay. You don't ever play golf with Brian for money because you'll come out of the you come back into the clubhouse on the 18th hole a little lighter in the pocket.
When Brian and I met before coming up here, I spotted a map of Ireland and see that Brian has some ambitions to play a number of golf courses in Ireland.
It is.
And I wish him the best.
We do. We wish you
My
the best.
wife and I have had the good fortune of being able to travel overseas a number of times.
Great.
And we plan to continue to do that.
Nice.
The Jefferson Educational Society is a marvelous
It's becoming our think tank.
And I want to be able to participate more in their activities.
And,
I have a number of hobbies that I want to follow up on.
I'm going to chop you off because I want to give Brian the last word here. The Jefferson Education Society
And the last thing
just
is
got a
to
grant
say,
to roll all these municipalities together and say, let's work together like you people are doing with the COG. They've got some money out of the Gaming Authority for that. So, yes, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
and the things that I've been working on through the COG and related activities, I hope to pick out a couple of those and continue to work. One of them I'm looking seriously at is Erie Together.
Good.
I think it's a marvelous program.
Yeah. You got the last word.
Phil, I appreciate you having me here, and I just want to say that it's been a pleasure to work with Ed for all 22 years that I've been around. Yeah. And he's had a real passion for the Council of Governments, and hopefully his replacement will feel the same.
Thank you to both of you, because this is a primary example of where government is working to benefit you and at no expense. It's really rolled along very nicely, and you've made it work. You've been the oil on that machine and those wheels, Ed. Congratulations to you.
Well, actually, it's people like Brian that
people
make
like
it
Brian.
happen.
I would agree, and I will compliment him highly too. Thanks for being with us. I'm Phil Fatica. Until next time, take care.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.